The most recent update to Pokemon Masters introduced the battle point system, and we can't get anything from it yet, but they're adding the events that we can in just a couple of days. So I thought I would go over some of the sync pairs that they're adding as rewards, go over their move sets, go over their sync grids, and just kind of see where they might fit into a team, see if they're maybe worth investing some battle points rewards into. So without further ado, let's take a look at them. And the cool thing actually is that they're all trainers that are in the game previously. They just got different partner Pokemon. So you can see a couple of the 5 stars up at the top, you with Cobalion or with Regirock, which is pretty cool, but I'm going to get to them later. They've got some really unique stuff, so I'm going to kind of get to them at the end. Everybody else is a 4-star, and there are, I think, 5 different ones that are 4 stars that you can get. And so they're not going to be as good as some of the maybe 5-star gacha characters that you expect to get from some of these events, but I do think a lot of them have some really cool uses. I think maybe 2 or 3 of them in particular I really wanted to take another look at. But I'm going to start from the bottom with Lieutenant Surge. And he's got Raichu, which is super sick to me. Of course, I want to see him, with the Raichu that he fought Pikachu with in the anime. But also, it's actually, I think, pretty useful, this one. Maybe more useful than him having Electrode, which I haven't really used so much since the start of the game. But let's just look at the moveset to begin with. So it's a support, 4-star support. Starting off, it's got Thunder Wave, which is very, very useful, of course, to guarantee that sort of status effect, especially if you have something like the Cobalion legendary event that just happened and you need to guarantee that there's something like that. Plus, of course, Paralysis, extremely useful, stopping people from kind of getting their stuff going. Then it's got Thunder Punch, classic, just 2-hit move, another chance to paralyze in case you don't have the time to throw out those Thunder Waves, but just probably a move to kind of spam while your actual attacker is attacking. And then it's got X Attack All. Of course, it's support, so this is kind of more important. It is definitely going to be a support for a physical attacker, which there aren't actually that many good ones for. So that's pretty useful, I think. So, of course, just X Attack All, pretty simple. But the real interesting one is here, 10 Hut. It's kind of a unique move, and it raises the defense of all allied sync pairs, pretty good, but sharply raises the crit rate of all allied sync pairs. So this is a physical support that raises both attack and crit. And I think as far as what's in the game, there's only Dusknoir and Phoebe. I believe that's the only other one that does that. So I definitely already feel like there is a place for this. That those 2 things just on top of having the Thunder Wave available, I feel is pretty useful. Again, this is just kind of the initial thoughts, but that's seeming pretty good to me. Moving on to its passive skills. Well, I guess I should look at its, no additional effect on its sync skill. So in the passive skills, post haste, it has a chance of raising its speed. Not a big deal, but I assume Raichu has a lot of speed. So always going to be nice, every team needs speed. And then it can't be paralyzed, whatever, no big deal. Might help in some fight, but not a huge deal. Again, these are just 4 stars. But moving on to its sync grid, each of these Pokemon that are being released has a full sync grid, and there are actually a lot of nodes that are kind of repeats. It's really interesting. Like they design them all at once, and I mean like there's a repeat where Surge has this, and then like just another one that released like Morty has like one of the same nodes for whatever reason. So I'll kind of go over those as we get to them, but I'm just gonna kind of circle around and go to the unique ones. We don't need to see the stats. So at the bottom, there's MP Refresh and Move Gauge Refresh for X Attack All. Can be useful. It is what it is. I mean, MP Refresh can be nice if it's the only way that you're giving attack to your entire team, and you really need to get that kind of triple for your physical attacker. But aside from that, it is what it is. Now, there's another kind of duo one here where special defense can't be lowered and physical defense can't be lowered. So that could be useful, but again, kind of niche. I don't know what fights really you get your defenses lowered all that much. So you're kind of chilling on that one. Moving on to the bottom right, there is Sync here. If you're using your Sync with him, you're probably not going to, so you're probably going to skip this one. Team Fast Track has the chance to increase speed. It's already got some stuff for speed, but you can always use more speed. And it has, if I click on it, there it is. Tighten Up, which has the chance of raising your special defense when you get hit by an attack. That could be good if you're kind of bringing him in as a tank, but I'm not sure if he's kind of be the main tank, but could be useful. And then moving gauge refresh on Thunder Wave, that is actually very useful. It spends 2 pretty early on, so you like to have a little bit more move gauge available. And then we're moving all the way up with the slow Pokemon Masters Drag. And then Thunder Punch, move gauge refresh, like I said, it's probably gonna be the one you're spamming a lot while your attacker's attacking, so that's pretty good. There's Fast Track, where it has a chance to, again, speed, but eventually you're gonna max on speed, so this is a little bit redundant. And then another move gauge refresh. So double move gauge refresh on spamming attack is really, really useful, because it means you basically get to do it for free, or kind of at like a net positive even often of move gauge, which is, for support, that's exactly what you want. Then moving up, it's got Toughen Up. Same thing, it has the special defense one at the bottom. And then it has Endurance, which is really, really nice for any Pokemon ever to last a thing. And then First Aid. So First Aid, Endurance, both of these, the Thunder Punches, I think this is a great little chain of stuff up here. And then we'll move to the top left, where there's Quick Cure. Again, it's always good. Literally going on any Pokemon, automatic gives you like a cure for something. And then again, you're probably not going to be using Sync much, so healing with the Sync. You could technically get this one in the Cure, but that's not a huge problem. You're probably not going to invest in that. But you could heal with your Sync move over and over if you really have nothing else to use. And then there's the 10 Hut, which is got the move gauge refresh and the MP refresh. You probably don't need that. It already has enough to almost max out your defense and over max out your critical, so you don't, like I said, really need that. But the fact that it's got just kind of this basic stuff up in the top right, that's all really good for just kind of throwing out your attacks. It can buff all the physical, basically every physical stat that you would possibly need. It just seems like a super solid physical support overall for Raichu and Lieutenant Surge. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Plus, like I said, just character-wise, I'm a big fan of both of these. But as you can see, they're 4 stars, but they've got some kind of 5-star type stuff going on. So I almost call them 4.5 stars. Now moving on to Karen and Umbreon, which is another cool one. I know everybody likes using the evolutions. Now it's a physical attacker, which is pretty interesting. And you can see it has double edge, so I might as well just start with the passive skills for this one, because it has Dark Shift, woo! Which is why, of course, that is an actual dark attack. But it also has Stand Fast, which again goes kind of with that double edge thing, reduces recoil, and Unflappable, so it can't be flinched. It's kind of funny, kind of stops things that it does. Both of these have so far. So like it says, it's a physical attacker. It has Feint Attack, never misses, which is, it's good every once in a while. I think I ran into one really high evasion, I don't even know what it was, Wingull or something like that in a previous fight. But double edge is going to be its main go-to. It's kind of I can't actually think of a good example, but it's one of those recoil kind of main physical Pokemon. Of course, it just does a ton of damage, super efficient, but you got to stop it from doing a bunch of recoil. It has the passive skill already, which is great. But as we'll go into the Sync Grid in a minute, as Dire Hit, raise your crit as usual, and then Go Wild sharply raises the attack and it heals itself. So the heal is going to be good if you do have to take a little bit of recoil, and of course just sharply raising your attack is really good. It can buff mostly all of its stats with the Dire Hit and the Go Wild, so pretty self-sustaining, I would say. And then again, Adorably Wild Dark Impact. I didn't read that name, it's pretty cute, but no effect on the Sync attack. So moving into its Sync Grid, we already can kind of tell that the main thing here is going to be you're not using Feint Attack, you're just trying to control that recoil, get as much damage as possible. So again, we'll start in the bottom left. Powers up Sync moves that are super effective. Sure, if it's your main attacker and you're using it in a dark fight, might as well. First Aid, that's a really nice one, and usually not one that you see on an attacker, so that can be pretty useful for kind of keeping you alive in those low health situations. And then super effective, which is again always good, because especially if you're using this, you're probably, I don't know, it's a pretty specific situation, so you're probably using it against a dark fight. Now in the red spots, there's Feint Attack Move Gauge Refresh and Feint Attack Fortuitous. Fortuitous, never really all that useful, and Move Gauge Refresh, sure, I guess, if your whole goal is to spam Feint Attack, but it's a pretty bad ratio of damage, 45 BP for 2 bars, so again, you want to skip most of these probably. Power Reserves, I think this is supposed to be kind of for it hurting itself with recoil, but usually you don't really want to take this because you're just going to lose. Go Wild MP refresh if you want to fully max out that attack. And then above it, Go Wild move gauge refresh. As you can see, this is what I was talking about. There's a lot of like an MP refresh and a move gauge refresh for each of their moves, and there's just a lot of these kind of repeat slots. So you probably don't need that much. Just kind of nice to have if you happen to be down there in the sync grid. But moving up to the top right, move gauge refresh for Double Edge, which is of course going to be really important considering it is a 3 gauge attack and it does a ton of damage, but you know, being able to get some of that move gauge back is super nice. And moving up, if I can ever click on these, another move gauge refresh. You see, this is almost the exact same grid as Pikachu, or sorry, as Raichu from Lieutenant Surge. Like you can see like the double move gauge refresh both in a row in this top spot, and it was 3 yellows above it in Raichu, but it's a little bit different here. So looking at these other ones, Catastrophe powers up sync moves as a critical hit. So you could go this whole like sync route for this potentially if you wanted to. I don't know if it'd be good. Doesn't have any natural effect on its sync move. But then Stand Fast, which lowers recoil, extremely good. You know, this is 3 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. They're all going to be pretty necessary, I think. But then moving up again, Critical Strike 2, extremely good. That's, I mean, something you want as like a lucky move, but if you can get it, take it for sure. And then another Stand Fast. Oh yeah, I forgot there's 2. So yeah, this whole area is like beautiful. You want all of this because you're probably going to be going for Double Edge. But the fact that there is that whole area of a grid and it's all in one spot is really, really nice, because that does mean that it's pretty effective and easy to, you don't have to like sacrifice stuff. But then there's Dire Hit and MP Refresh. Can we guess what this is? Is it going to be Move Gauge Refresh? Yes, it is. I don't know why there's so many repeats like that, but this part of the grid probably not looking all that good. There's you know, a bunch of sync stuff, but whatever. So yeah, you mainly want to again kind of be in this top right corner. Same thing with Raichu. Seems like they stuff a lot of like good stuff in these areas, but it does have a lot of, you know, effective like it's already got the reduced recoil. You can get 2 more reduced recoil. I'd assume that would take it pretty low. It's got critical what's it technically called? Critical Strike? Just Critical Strike 2. It's got you know, move gauge refresh double on what's it called? Oh my god, my name's Double Edge. So overall could be good, you know, could be good as like a physical dark attacker. I feel like there's not a ton of those out there right now, or if you just want to use Umbreon, or you like Karen, regardless. So again, very usable, you know, very, very usable. Have to see kind of how it stats out a little bit later on. But then moving up to Erika and Tangela. Tangela? I think that's just Tangela. Please forgive me for mispronouncing names. But this one's kind of got a double typing on it, and it is a tech Pokemon, or a tech sync pair. So looking at this, it's of course going to have some weird stuff. I'm going to start again with the passive skills. It's got Speeding Sun, so, you know, this sunny day, it's faster. Propelling move, where you just, it's like automatic gauge refresh, or chance of gauge refresh for any move. And then Poke Trap, which is more damage from being trapped, which is really, really good because Tangela, of course, has Infestation, which I'm skipping down a little bit, but Infestation is going to do extra damage for that. Plus, it has Toxic. So there is, I can't think of the name of it because I'm terrible with names, but there's the other poison sync pair that has Wrap, and it tries to poison you. And this is very similar, which is, you can actually clear a lot of really good stuff with that, because it's kind of like independent of how much damage this can actually deal, because you just kind of kill them with slow amounts of damage. And on top of that, it has Absorb, so that you can kind of spam for like one move bar, which is pretty impressive once you've got it all set up, and just kind of build up the sync gauge, etc. And then its final move, thing with this, sharply raises special attack and special defense. Again, you probably don't really care that much about the special attack being raised. Special defense can help obviously in half the fights, but overall you can tell this is going to be like a Pokemon that's really aiming to debuff you. And it's got a sync move that increases if they're trapped, which again, Infestation is kind of the goal. Infestation is a pretty good one. So moving into the sync grid, this is definitely going to be a more niche one, but you know, this is, again, this could be really useful. You could probably clear like an entire boss with this as your, almost like your damage. We'll start in the bottom right again. So it's Tangle with this move gauge refresh, and Tangle with this MP refresh. you don't really care. You don't need either of those because you're probably not even going to care about using that unless you just want, like, yeah, you're probably never going to use that. It seems like it'd be a waste to use over Absorb in any instance. But First Aid 4, really, really good. So you do maybe want to go down there. Moving to the bottom right, it's got Super Duper Effective. Don't care. You're not really doing damage that way. Power Reserves, again, you're not doing that much damage that way. And Double Down again, which is it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh yeah, if you're super effective and you've got a 1-bar move that does damage, maybe it's possible to like build it as like a 1-bar just spamming over and over type deal, but I'm not sure. And then moving up, Toxic, Move Gauge Refresh. Sure, useful. I mean, Toxic you're definitely going to want to be using, so just being able to get some more gauge, especially if you're in like the Battle Stadium and you have like the 4 max gauge or something like that, could be useful. Then moving up to the top right, Infestation, Move Gauge Refresh, and Infestation, Move Gauge Refresh. So you're not going to be necessarily spamming that. It's not going to be as good as maybe like Absorb, or it's not as good as basically the other Pokemon in this area in the Sync Grid, but still useful because you are probably going to be using a lot of Infestation. And really then you got to look at what the other Wiis are, which is Poketrap 2, extremely important. So you're going to be up here anyway for sure. I think you kind of have to get this to add on to that trapping damage. And then Critical Strike 2, which not useful for any other Pokemon. They'd be thrilled to have that, but we're again not doing that much damage. Although there's a lot of damage stuff on the Sync Grid, so maybe there's a chance, like I said, to build it some other way. But we got Solar Shield, kind of builds in with his first passive skill, but you know, not a super useful one. And then Healing Sun. So all together, you can kind of build it as like a Sun tank, but I don't think realistically you'd want to. But maybe, you know, if that's your plan, if you're trying to go like you could go like, say, some sort of Sunny Day team where this is kind of like a second Pokemon and it's not your like DPS, and it can kind of work as the tank while it's maybe like debuffs a bunch of people, like, you know, like poisons them, or I should say toxics them, and then infestations them. So maybe if you want to go that route with Sunny Day, maybe. And then maybe if you want to do the actual like DPS one with the Critical Strike and stuff like that. But most likely, I think you're just going to want to go again up to the top here. This is going to kind of be a theme today. And just get Poketrap and just trap everybody and then try to out heal everything else. Especially because you have Absorb, which heals a little bit more. But that could also work for it in the tank. You know, like if you're spamming Absorb in the Sun with Healing Sun, you're probably gonna be pretty hard to kill. Like, I didn't see again how this stats up once it gets to actually max level, but that's a very possible way to use it. So, and again, another interesting one, you know? None of these have been like, oh yeah, that's kind of whack yet. There's always some sort of interesting thing. And so now moving on to the event only trainer, Zinnia, who has Salamence this time. And I guess I didn't mention this before, but I guess we could just kind of see where everything is as far as like the meta. So like having like an electric support is useful. There is another electric support, but it doesn't really matter what you are in that case. Having a dark physical attacker, I don't think many dark physical attackers that are actually really, really good, so that could be a little bit useful. There's already kind of like a poison trap like character in the game, so I don't know if this is gonna be better or worse, but it's definitely gonna be up there as far as usefulness. And then now we have Zinnia and Salamence, who is a tech dragon with the Salamence. And actually, is there another Synchro that has Salamence? I'm pretty sure there is. But this one, again, we'll start with the passive skills. So it's got Terrify, aka Intimidate, which I guess for some reason they're not using that name. So good against physical attackers, and then it raises attack every time that you use a move. So it automatically raises on attack. You don't have to buff it, but it does take a little while. And then it raises the chance of kind of all the secondary additional effects, status conditions, I guess. So starting it off, it's got Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw's meh. Dragon Rush, which, you know, accuracy is really bad, but it's quite good damage-wise for being 3 bars, and then a small chance of making a target flinch, which goes up. And then we know that flinching is really good because it stops them from building their sync gauge. But then up here, Status Shield. I think the Arcanine sync pair has this. Blocks all the status effects. And then real nice. I like this name. But it raises defense, special defense, and speed and accuracy. So the whole goal here, I would have to assume the way that this Pokemon is built out is that you use this a couple of times, buffs its accuracy so that Dragon Rush stops missing, and it self buffs itself by doing attacks over and over. But that's a pretty slow start. and it's not even like an attacker. It's like tech. It's kind of a mixed bag of weird stuff here. I don't fully understand it. But yeah, increased damage when they're flinching, which is pretty cool. I don't think a whole lot of Pokemon have that. And so let's go to Synchrid. Maybe we can figure this one out a little bit more. I think Zinnia is real cool, so hopefully we can find a way. And real nice, refresh. Again, refresh and gauge refresh. Not super useful. You probably aren't going to be using that more than a couple times. Maybe you could go for one more. First aid again in that same exact spot. Always useful. Super duper effective. This is probably double down. Yep. Where again, they're just kind of like repeat Synchreds here for a lot of the these, I don't know what they call them, battle point Pokemon. But status shield, MP refresh, and move gauge refresh. So move gauge refresh you don't give a crap about, but MP refresh could be really useful if there's a fight that ends up having like multiple instances of like a time where you know that you're getting hit with a status condition. So this is one of the first times that one of these is using useful on these grids. And again, scrolling up slowly, we've got, these have been good in every other sync grid. So Dragon Rush, move gauge refresh, Dragon Rush, move gauge refresh. Okay. But of course we're looking for, oh yeah, no, this is Dragon Rush. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we are looking for Dragon Rush. So that's good. That's quite good. That's the one that you're gonna want to be spamming. I don't remember names. But it's got another Terrify. So again, you can kind of double lower the attack of any physical team, which is already pretty good. I mean, that means you get a lot more leeway in the start of a lot of these kind of quick acting fights, or if you're kind of trying to battle your way through like maybe one of the legendary fights, even if you're going to die really quickly, it gets its effect immediately. You get to weaken them pretty quickly. Harry 3. It's an interesting name, but again, it's kind of like this whole flinching situation, which flinching is obviously really good in this game. Super good. So that could actually be pretty nice. Critical Strike 2 will actually be useful this time around. She can buff her own crit. And then Power Posture. That's a really interesting one, and normally I would say that's a really bad like node to take most of the time, because you'd have to bring along like, I don't even know who really lowers attack, but since it automatically lowers 2 attack if you get the other sync grid spot, that's pretty good. It could be pretty good if you're up here anyway. It also has Catastrophe. Sync moves if they crit. Yeah, could be good again if you're going for damage. And then Dragon Claw, Harry 2, and Dragon Claw move gauge refresh. Not really useful again. Even if you do get like the flinches off and just spam this, it's probably not going to increase it to be kind of more worthwhile than just spamming Dragon Rush. So overall, this is kind of like a weird tech damage for Dragon, but the problem is that the Dragon, I would say like meta in this game is super full to the brim. There's like 10 good Dragon attackers, and this is just doing the same thing but with status shield. So if you really like Zinnia, you could go for it, but you could also just go for the other Zinnia, I guess, if you really like it. So this is definitely the ones that I'm looking at the least, but you know, I could be wrong. It could just be that when it starts flinching people, then it just runs away with things because they just don't have an opportunity to really do anything. But we'll see. I could definitely be wrong. I'm by no means am a pro at understanding all this stuff. But moving up to the final 4-star, we're going to go to Morty and Mismagius. Yeah, and then there's also a Mismagius. So we're getting some repeats of Pokemon in the game. And Morty's already in the game with, I think, Drifblim. So that's pretty cool. You kind of get both of these, but kind of mixed matched up. And this one is actually one that I'm really looking forward to because, well, let's just start with the passive skills. Master Healer 1, that is always something that you want to see. That is always a bonus on pretty much any Pokemon that's a support. And this is, of course, a ghost support. So just looking at its moves, Astonish, one of the best, I'd say, 1-bar moves to kind of spam for supports. Moderate chance of flinching, and as we know, flinching is really good in this game. Plus, it just builds up your sync gauge super quickly. And then moving down, Confuse Ray, which is a guaranteed confuse. So we've got 2 of the best, like, kind of alternate status effects just already sitting here. Of course, this Pokemon's not going to do a lot of damage, but you're not here for the damage. And then moving over to Potion. Oh boy, we love Potion. Can't ever go wrong with Potion. Potion and Master Healer. But moving down, I see you. Look at this move. So it, oh wait, this is not the one I was thinking of. So this one sharply raises the defense and special defense of all sync pairs. So this is also a good move though. Again, I'm sorry, I only went through these one time, but it is super high defense, right? So you've got healing, you've got high defense, you've got Astonish to spam, and Confuse Ray just to make Pokemon hurt themselves more and waste their turns. So all together, that with Master's Healer, really, really good. And then let's look at the sync grid. So down here, Potion, MP Refresh. Oh yeah, that's good. You know that's good. And it's going to be Move Gauge Refresh, which is a shame that it's not the double MP Refresh, because then we would have another kind of like Swanna Skyla type deal in our hands. But having at least one is really cool. And if you're down there, maybe you just want to take the Move Gauge Refresh anyway. That's pretty unique to have a potion with an actual Move Gauge boost. But then it has Stalwart and Unbending. Yeah. Where you can't lower its defenses. I don't know if it's going to be the tank again. It might just be kind of like the secondary Pokemon, but if it is, that could be useful in some fights. It's got Sync Cure and Tighten Up. So this is very similar to kind of that the first grid that we looked at with Raichu, where it depends kind of if you want to really use them as a tank. But next to that, it's got Astonish Aggravation, increases the chance of flinching. That's so good. That's so good. And above it, Move Gauge Refresh. So you have a Move Gauge Refresh on a higher chance to flinch Astonish. That is, I just can't explain how good that is. Like, that could stop Pokemon from getting their Sync Gauge for such a long time. So already this Pokemon, in my opinion, looking really good. Plus, has the fact to heal. It can Confuse, which I'm sure we'll get to up here. But here we go. Move Gauge Refresh on Confuse Ray, which is going to be good because I think it costs 2. And then moving up, Move Gauge Refresh again. And Master Healer on Potion. So that's double Master Healer, which makes it heal quite a bit, which is great to see. And then it's got Toughen Up, similar to whatever the one for special defense is. There's First Aid itself, which is especially good if it's going to be kind of the pseudo tank. Healthy Healing. And look at this. It just auto puts on HP regen on itself when it comes in the game. So you're going to put that on yourself, and you're just going to spam these unbelievably powerful 1 bar increased chance to flinch Astonishes. Like, this is looking like a really good sync pair to me. You can sync to heal, not a big deal. Quick Cure, that's good for anybody again. And then there's the ICU, but both of these doesn't really matter all that much because you're probably not going to be using this to kind of spam defense ups. But defense ups are really good, especially the fact that it's both, so you don't really have to kind of pick and choose which Pokemon does what. So overall, I gotta say, I think this Pokemon's great. I guess we didn't go over this. No additional effect. Does have a high base damage, I guess, on its sync attack. But overall, yeah, this I think is going to be a really, really like core member of a lot of like teams just as a support. It's really nice to see. It's just kind of got everything that you need in one package. But that's all the 4 stars. But now moving on to the 5 stars, which are very, very unique. And of course, you can't use these together because they're both you. And it means you can't use it with the Torchic. You can't use it with any, you know what I'm saying. So we're going to start with, we'll keep going. With Regirock, which is really cool. I love the Regis. But this is support. And these are 5 stars. So they are going to be a little bit more interesting and maybe a little stronger. And there's some unique things. You might see a little icon next to the passive skills, so I might as well just go there because this is the big deal. Rock Teamwork, right? So it powers up all just in general, like the moves of all allied sync pairs. I'm just going to read it. By 10%, and it reduces attack move damage taken by all allied sync pairs by 10%. And the more that you have that are rock themed, the higher the percentages become. So if you, it says max right there. I don't even do the math. 20% and 14% damage reduction. That's huge. That's gigantic. So I believe that this is the theme skill is rock. Yeah. So that's something new that they're adding to the game. So it's not an actual rock type. It might be a rock type, but I don't think anybody's really sure exactly how it's going to work. But yeah, that's a huge deal, right? That is 20% higher. So automatically you could just say, like, what if we use Olivia with this? Like 20% more damage than Olivia, that's already some of the highest damage in the game. It's also got Last Word. It uses Explosion, really strong. Usually which ones do you actually use that? We've got Steelix, which you have to like use a sync move first, or I don't know, Lieutenant Surge. But that's really good. Impervious, stats can't be lowered at all. That's actually really good. You never have to worry about it. And then Endurance, so it survives a hit. So this has a lot of the really good stuff that Steelix has, but without having to ever do a sync attack with it. But it's sync attack, you can see here, just high base damage, not a big deal. So you don't want to use it, or maybe, we'll see. But starting off, it has Rock Tomb, kind of little spamming attack, lowers their speed, guaranteed nice little debuff. It's got double edge, which can do a good amount of damage, but I mean, you're not going to get any super effects with it, so it's kind of a little bit of weakness. But again, this is a support, so I think the double edge might be a little bit moot. It's got X attack all, so it again is a support for a physical attacker, or you know, it can kind of buff itself here. And then ready to rock. So this is a really interesting move. It restores a bit of an ally's HP, and then sharply raises their defense, and then it makes them heal themselves over time. So it's like a little mini potion and an HP regen, and raises their defense. So against physical attacks, this is kind of like a one size fits all. Which seems really good to me. So overall, this like buffs things, and I'm gonna assume it's a little bit of a tank. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be pretty tanky just because it is Regirock, but I'd have to see how this levels up. But it is kind of doing a lot of things all at once, so that might be a little bit of a downside for it. But we'll go through the sync grid. So MP refresh and move gauge refresh. Again, the repeats, and okay, well it's for X attack, all whatever, not a big deal unless you really needed the 3, right? Okay. And then it has unyielding, so it has a chance to kind of reset its its ability to survive the last hit. And then the other one I clicked before, sand shelter, which could be really good if you have something that sets sand. So I am already thinking like you set this up with Olivia, assume Olivia has rock, which I'm assuming she will, and you set up sand and you kind of do these sand Olivia, and that already sounds disgusting. Sand doing rock attacks with 20% bonus. Or maybe at least like, what, 15% bonus? Disgusting, for sure. It has quick cure, really good, of course, curing itself automatically. Sync cure, if you just sync move, you probably don't want to use that all that much. Sync healing, again, you know, a lot of them had this, and you're probably not going to take it. And tighten up, which again, this one might actually be a tank, so this might be a little bit more valuable. But you get the move gauge refresh on rock throw, which is probably going to be your main go-to move. So when you're spamming that kind of as the tank / support, you probably do want to take this and just, you know, throw as many of those as possible while probably Olivia is breaking boulders over people's heads. But moving over here, we've got the, oh wait, I'm sorry, that was rock throw. Wait, what's rock throw? Rock throw. Okay, so there's a move called rock throw. I don't know what the move is that's rock throw. All right, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused in my own video, but my best guess is that I don't actually have a best guess. It seems like one of those moves that, like, if you were to like essentially go mega, you would get something. So I don't know if there's some sort of like transformation once you, I mean, it doesn't say it, so I don't know what rock throw is, full honesty. So yeah, I guess we'll see. All right, so going back to the sync grid. So this is rock tomb and the double move gauge, oh no, it's ripple effect, where it lowers all of their speed a chance, which is pretty decent. Again, you want to spam this, so you want the move gauge refresh for sure. And it's got toughen up, which again, if it's a tank, could work pretty well. First aid, great if it's a tank, incredibly useful. Power reserves, you're not really trying to do all that much damage with this. It doesn't have super efficient attacks. The moon at the top left has got 4 red squares. So MP refresh on ready to rock, which is going to be really useful because that's the one that was the pseudo heal, so you do really want that. And then it's got master healer for it. So my question is, I'm curious if the heal over time gets affected by the master healer, but regardless, you definitely want it. And then another master healer, and then a move gauge refresh. So the move gauge refresh is probably the least useful of all of them, but if you're going to be using that move a lot anyway, you probably want it. So this is I mean, even just from the passive skill of this Pokemon, obviously we need to figure out what rock throw is. I'm assuming that double edge, maybe that's double edge and it's not supposed to say rock throw. I mean, these sync grids are like preview, I guess. But yeah, overall, maybe like a tank, you put it with some other rock Pokemon, put it in sand maybe, and it could be pretty scary. It's not going to be doing a lot of damage. I don't think it's its goal. It is kind of doing a lot of things, so it's going to be pretty specific, I think, where you use it, but it's obviously going to be unbelievably good if you set it up with its passive skill with the rock teamwork, which leads us to our next one, Cobalion. You can see it's a fighting support, and it has, you guessed it, fighting teamwork. So fighting teamwork does the same thing, but of course it's with fighting. So you're going to want to pair this with obviously fighting type Pokemon, or whatever the fighting theme skill technically means. But let's see what else it has. Team Fast Track has a chance of raising the speed always, which is really useful. Has First Aid 4 automatically, which is going to be really nice. And on a roll, raises the chance of lowering stat values. So we'll see what it can actually do with that. And I guess just starting off with that, Rock Smash has a good chance, which is going to go even higher, of lowering defense. So off the bat, you can see that every time this thing attacks, it's probably going to be lowering defense and raising speed. So if there was any Pokemon that needed speed and needed them to have lower defense, that would be really good. I'm going to go ahead and say Surfetched, because it really, I mean, most of the physical fighting type attackers, but Surfetched, I think, has a lot of speed synchrid stuff. And then it has Sacred Sword, which is, it ignores stats, which is pretty nice, but again, you're not really doing a lot of damage. So maybe if somehow they've set up some sort of, like, just unbelievable, like, I don't even know. It doesn't really necessarily fit with the theme of this Pokemon, because it's probably going to be rock smashing their defense down anyway, so it might be just kind of useless. But maybe it'll come into play at some point. So Dire Hit All Plus, that's extremely good. You know, max out crit for all your team. That's one of the most, I guess, useful support things. And then Justice for All. So it gives you the accelerated move gauge, and it sharply raises defense. So this is very similar to the I guess Blastoise move that I can't remember the name of, but it raises defense instead. So between the Dire Hit All Plus and Justice for All, it's kind of like a mix of both of the tech moves that Blastoise has, but overall not as much, I don't think, goodness as Blastoise, but it has the passive skill, which is really important. And then looking at these, again, no moves, or no effects, I should say, on the move. So let's just go into Synchrid. So it's got Dire Hit All Refresh, Dire Hit All Move Gauge Refresh. Don't really need it unless you need the Move Gauge Refresh. Again, it's pretty unique, but you don't need, what, 6 levels of 6+ levels of crit. That would be pretty impressive. Guarantee yourself a double crit. It's got both the tank ones, I think. Yep, defense, special defense can't be lowered. Again, I don't know what really fights you're in where that's getting lowered enough to need that. And then it's got Sync here and Tighten Up. So this is all, I think, almost the exact same grid as we saw previously with Regirock. But moving down here, and it actually has this move, Rock Smash. So it's Move Gauge Refresh and Ripple Effect. So Ripple Effect, really nice. We saw that also in the Regirock Sync grid. So it's going to give you the ability to lower the defense of everybody while spamming it, just eating these Sync grids all right here. Eating them up and getting those nice bonuses. And then moving up to the top. Let's see what we've got. We've got Sacred Sword. Not useful. This is one of the first times where they've kind of misguessed what the main move is going to be on the Pokemon here, I think, because you really don't want to use it, and it can't get its own buffs or anything like that. So maybe there's some sort of like build where there's a really high physical defense team, but it's weak if you manage to get past all of its defenses. But yeah, I don't know, that'd be for later. So it's got Toughen Up, chance to raise defense if it's a tank, Synchro Healing, but again, you're not going to want to sync attack that much. Healthy Healing, that's really good, especially if it's a tank, just automatically HP regens. We saw that from Morty. Endurance, again, if it's a tank, that's really good. So all of this kind of pointing towards it's going to be a pretty decent tank. And then over here, Justice for All, it raises the defense, which it already did. So I guess it just gives you a ton of defense. And then Move Gauge Refresh and MP Refresh. But I mean, you can have MP Refresh if you really need like Move Gauge to be sped up like the entire game, basically, for like a really long fight. Or, you know, I guess if you're any of these MP Refresh, obviously I'm talking about single fights, not like Battle Vista or something. Where that's the unique thing. And then it's got Quick Cure, again, really good. But this one, it's a little bit weird. I don't feel like I mean, it's going to be like a tank overall, right? You're going to be spamming Rock Smash, getting defense, or sorry, getting speed, lowering their defense, buffing your own defense. raising your move gauge. Altogether, I definitely feel like this fits Sirfetch'd really well, who's really hungry for move gauge with like the 4-bar meteor smash or whatever it's called, meteor attack, I don't know. And you know, it's gonna be able to give like speed buff and give all the move gauge you need, and then give like crit, just a lot of really nice stuff for Sirfetch'd. But overall, I'm don't know how many other Pokemon it's gonna work really well with. I mean, there are only a few fighting types, right? There's Gallade and there's the May, the whatever the seasonal May is with Lopunny. So I'm sure it'll work pretty well with any of these. Again, 20% damage buff is ridiculous, or at the minimum 15. I guess you could maybe have this in the first spot and then kind of put it with like I can't remember the name of the Pokemon, the little monkey Pokemon. That's the fighting sport. But overall, both of these a little bit weird. I actually feel like you know, they're really good, obviously, with their passives. But as far as utility, I'm most excited for Morty and Mismagius, looking really good. Also with the Raichu and Lieutenant Surge, both of those are looking like really good supports. Which obviously 4 stars are going to be a little bit better as like that type of support, because they're just going to bring a lot of utility. Same thing with the Erika and Tangela. That's going to be able to do a ton of damage without even being like a real attacker. Karen Umbreon looks really solid. Zinnia Salamence looks a little bit maybe questionable, and the others worth it alone for their passive, but we'll see how well they do for the others. But yeah, that's basically all of my thoughts so far. Of course, I could be wrong on all this, you know, definitely not going to assume that I'm correct. Just some initial brainstorms looking into what we could be getting pretty soon. I think the rewards are different between the 4 stars and the 5 stars, so you're going to choose 1 5-star for sure. And yeah, that's it. So I guess let me know if you think I'm wrong about any of this, because, you know, it's a discussion and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If there's anything that I missed in here, if there's any sort of like strategies or team comps that potentially I missed. But yeah, I'm really excited for all of these to come out. So thanks for watching.